Let me begin this video by telling you that I'm doing my best to remain very, very calm, but we're going to be digging into a rumor and a possible very legit leak that is absolutely crazy. Possibly one of the biggest news stories of the entire year, if not the entire freaking century, because it's just so crazy. It looks like we could be seeing the writer of Game of Thrones actually working together with From Software, the creators of such gems as Bloodborne, Dark Souls, and Sekiro. It sounds like he could be writing an entire freaking game, including helping with the world creation of an upcoming project. What's up, gamers? DreamcastGuy here, and today we really need to dig deep into this leak because it's just so intricate and so crazy. So this comes from the YouTuber Spawnwave Media. He's a good buddy of mine, and he actually gets a lot of very, very deep, intricate sources. Since he does a news show, a lot of times people like to approach him with really early stuff and say, hey, check this out. If they want to try and leak something, he's a good guy to leak too. Well, he worked in conjunction with a very famous leaker by the name of Liam Robertson. Now, both of these people have a very good track record, so them coming together to report on this basically makes it, in my mind, very, very concrete. But we do all have to take this with a grain of salt. So it sounds like this upcoming project is something that's one of two main things that From Software is currently working on. I've heard some little tidbits that it sounds like the other thing that they could be trying to cook up is a Bloodborne 2, but this is going to be something else entirely. So in case you've never played something like Dark Souls or Bloodborne, these are very, very focused games in my opinion. Basically, you start out and you're trying to basically have one main goal, like, you know, in something like this, there's like 15 main bosses. There's some optional and some mandatory, but there's an overall point. You're supposed to be trying to basically save the world or destroy it. It's the same in Sekiro. In Sekiro, you're trying to defeat a bunch of very, very serious and difficult bosses, with the overall goal, of course, being to save a small boy. Well, this sounds like they're trying to do something much more exploratory. Now, the reason I use that word specifically is apparently the reason that they're bringing George R.R. Martin, the writer and creator of Game of freaking Thrones, trying to calm down, gotta do my best to stay calm. The reason they're bringing him in is to try and help make sure the world seems realistic and alive. So it sounds like what they want to do with this next big game is actually make it much more open world. Now, what I mean by that is, apparently, at the beginning, instead of just having a linear path, a journey that you're taking through this world, at the beginning, you will get to choose from multiple kingdoms. Think of it as having like a sand kingdom, or a lightning kingdom, or a fire kingdom, and then once you've selected this kingdom, you're dropped into it. And from here, it's your job to try and take people out, gain power, and probably overthrow the leader of that kingdom. But what's really important here is, apparently, basically the goal is to try and basically dominate that kingdom, to take it over. And when you do, you get some sort of ability. Like the example that Spawnwave gives is, say there's some sort of like fire kingdom. Well, when you overthrow the fire king or the fire queen, you would get some sort of fire ability that you'll then have for the rest of the game. Now, this in general sounds so freaking hyped. I'm so excited for it, but also because I actually worked in the book business for almost 10 years. When Game of Thrones, the TV show, first started coming out, I was actually working at the bookstore, and I just saw people just flooding into our store one day, all trying to buy this little fantasy novel I'd never heard of called Game of Thrones. And of course, all the sequels, like Feast of Crows and all that. And the whole series of A Song of Ice and Fire is a very different style of fantasy. So if you've never read it, the big appeal of it is basically the fact that it's a really intricate world, but the big thing to me that made it really alluring is that everything has a cost. Everything has a price. People are constantly killing each other, competing for power, or sometimes even selling their literal soul in order to have magical abilities. This stuff makes it where everything that happens in the story seems like a giant reveal. Sometimes even a tiny conversation is just the most dramatic thing of the entire freaking book. So I'm excited to see what somebody with that caliber of skill could actually add to a world by the people who, in my opinion, are some of the greatest gameplay crafters in the business right now. Now, the other thing about this that's really, really cool to me is just thinking about the fact that George R.R. Martin, I honestly think he's probably a little bored. Now, that's just my own personal theory, but he's just been working specifically on Game of Thrones for decades. I mean, people sort of forget the fact that he wrote the original book in, I think, 1996. Seriously, look it up. It has been so long since he first sat down and put pen to paper. So at this point, he's probably really aching to try and explore in different directions. I mean, he's already doing little tinkering projects like a sci-fi series, so this seems like it would be exactly up his alley, and really, we're starting to see a bunch of very big and very famous authors starting to experiment with video games anyways. Like a project that really comes to mind personally that I thought was great was R.A. Salvatore's game, what was that called? Kingdoms of Amalur? Now that game was really good, and what's funny is that it really had a lot of that Salvatore charm. I mean, I've actually read a bunch of R.A. Salvatore. You know what? I actually have a humongous book collection. I'm going to grab one of his books right now, his famous trilogy. Seeing really creative authors who have managed to literally craft their own universe, like in this case, this is the Night Elf trilogy by R.A. Salvatore, these people have to be very, very talented at a separate kind of craft. They have to be able to literally create their own universe, their own politics, their own logic systems, their own motivations, their own thrills and scares. So the idea of seeing more of these kind of authors step into the universe of stuff like Dark Souls is crazy to me and honestly gets me super, super hyped. Okay, I'm about to lose it because I'm just so excited. All right, if you're wearing headphones, please just forgive me for a second while I just gotta lose my mind for a second. We're just gonna... Yes! Yes! If this rumor is true, I guarantee you that this is going to be perhaps the best thing that From Software has ever worked on. Just the pure potential of freaking Game of Thrones combining with Bloodborne is a match made in chaotic heaven. But what do you think? Are you somebody who's actually watched any of Game of Thrones or read the books, or have you beaten all the Dark Souls like I have and conquered a bunch of freaking ninjas in Sekiro? Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like, share with your friends, and subscribe if you haven't already. But do me the biggest favor of all and keep dreaming. Excuse this short little hype video, I had to yell about it. And these spotlights are making me sweat, so I'm gonna edit this. Thanks so much for watching that video. If you want to see something else, you can always click this link to see what I put up last, or, subscribe and see what's coming up next. Also, I promise that whatever I do, it'll try not to suck.